Welcome to the My Friend the Friar podcast, and thanks for listening. If you like My Friend the Friar and want to support us, please consider subscribing or following us if you haven't already done so. And if you found us on YouTube, then don't forget to click the notification bell when you subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes when they release. Thanks again, and God bless.
Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me and my friends, Robert Dominguez and his nephew, Stephen Dominguez. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Y'all are not... Stephen, you're not my Stephen, so you're not Father Stephen.
No.
I was hoping, and Robert and I were really hoping for like a Stephen battle royale. Like
Yeah.
to the death. Earlier. See who comes out on top kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Stephen with a V versus Stephen with a PH, right?
Yeah.
Yep. See, it was fisticuffs. It was bound to happen.
You don't want to have my name with a PH on it because I would have a PhD.
Oh goodness.
Yes. Yes.
My so Father Stephen, he had to go out to the castle, which is what we call his monastery out in Arkansas. So he had to go to the castle this weekend, and he was cleaning around some moldy window, and he started feeling really bad. I think he's turning into like a spore zombie, and I hope. Actually, I hope not, but I kind of hope so too, because it'd be kind of cool.
The Last of Us.
Yeah, and I don't know, but anyway, so he's not feeling well, so he's not joining us tonight, unfortunately. But hopefully we'll hear from him soon.
Yeah, I sure hope he feels better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So, Robert and Stephen, you guys. Well, Stephen, actually, it's like I've known you longer than you've known me because I listen to y'all's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Robert, what did we say earlier? We've known each other like 4 years?
Like about 4 years, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So our listeners who don't know anything about you, like tell us a little bit about you, like where you're from, what are you interested in? Tell us about your amazing podcast, of course, so people can check y'all out.
Right. Thanks for the platform. Yeah, my name is Robert Dominguez. I grew up in Oak Cliff, in the 80s, and Stephen is
here in Dallas, right?
It's in Dallas, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Dallas area. They used to call it a suburb of Dallas, but it's just now a part of Dallas now. So, Stephen, my nephew, he grew up, I've been in his life his whole life. And so, we've always been together. And, back when I was doing, Bigfoot stuff, cause I was interested in Bigfoot and the paranormal, but mostly at this time when he was little, I was into Bigfoot. And whenever we had these meetings or we would go on these outings, I would take him with me. And Stephen, how old were you at the time?
You always ask us all the
I know,
time.
but the listeners don't know.
I know. I'm going to say 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah. So you would go out to the field with me or go to meetings and stuff, and you would hear all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that you were a Bigfooter, because like people who do Bigfoot stuff, they kind of call them, they call them Bigfooters. Mm. Would you consider yourself a Bigfooter?
At the time or now?
No, at the time. Back then.
At the time, no, I was just along for the ride.
Okay. So,
because if I'm being totally honest, at that time I was terrified going out there, and I'd rather not have gone, but I was with you. So, I mean,
you wanted to be with me.
I just wanted to be with you at the time. So I was like,
such love.
I was like, well, I want to spend, this is what he loves. I guess I'll just spend time with him,
So at that time, John, we were, I was a part of a Bigfoot group called the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. And this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was formed by this gentleman by the name of Luke Gross, which is a mentor of mine. And he's a great man. So at that time, we had formed this group. And so what we wanted to do was help people in Texas and surrounding states who had a incident with or eyewitness a Bigfoot. And I know some of your listeners say Bigfoot in Texas. Yeah, there's Bigfoot in East Texas, and
lots of trees out there.
Yeah, lots of trees, and there's lots of areas that doesn't have any houses or any communities, and where these potential creatures can roam and move freely without being seen. So at the time I was with this group. I left the group in 2003 because I just didn't like its direction. I then became a independent researcher, so I was doing stuff on my own. So it's like whenever you're with a group, you kind of get tied into rules and regulations of what you can't say to the press or whatever. And so I was tongue tied. I couldn't say a lot of things, and so as I became free from the group, I was able to say what I want or how I felt about certain things. And then that kind of progressed me into the paranormal. I was recruited by Kendall Lamb. Did I say her name right? No. Kendall Rubio. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Kendall Rubio. And so I was recruited by her. She was looking for a seasoned researcher. And so I became the case director for paranormal investigations of North Texas. So I got a lot of cases and, paranormal wise, and I would distribute them out to other researchers that at times I would go out and research as well. So I've kind of been interested in the paranormal and cryptids. So that was kind of the area way that I was kind of going into. And probably like in 2000, this was probably like 2005. And I did it all the way into probably like 2017. And then from 2017 to 2019, I kind of took a break and from doing anything. So in 2019, I just had the idea of doing a podcast. And at the time, Stephen was a parent and he had very young boys, and he was my number one draft pick to do this podcast with, because number one, he's been with me in the woods. He knows all the key components, all the key players like in the field. And so he has, I liked his perspective on stuff, because I would always show him a picture or a video like of a Bigfoot or the paranormal, and I would always ask him, so what do you think? And he would give me his honest opinion. And so, I ended up starting Bigfoot Club. I had to pick two different co-hosts at the time. We started off in October of 2019, and it was rough going because I didn't know anything about podcasting or editing audio or anything like that. So it was tough going at first, and then and I'm sure we'll probably get into it. And up until current time, I think in 2021, it was just me and Steven. And so since Steven and I have been doing the show has tripled in downloads and participation, and people emailing us and sending us messages, and so it's at this time we don't do a lot of active stuff anymore. We don't do stuff in the field. We don't research. But if someone were to reach out to us, we would try to help them like the best of our best that we can. So at this time right now, we don't really call ourselves podcasters anymore. We call ourselves cryptid sports entertainers. So we're kind of like the Sports Illustrated for people who do cryptid and paranormal investigations. So we kind of critique them on some of the stuff that they're doing, because I've done a lot of stuff in the field and I've seen a lot of stuff. So that's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you guys, I love you. Lately too, it seems like you guys you're a platform that allows people to share their stories, right? And that's good. And again, that's one of the beauties of podcasting, is because the more we talk, the more we share, the more connected we are, and the more you realize, well, hey, that weird thing that I experienced is maybe not that weird because somebody else experienced it.
Yeah, and I think it gives people the idea that they're not alone, because most of the time that I would talk to people, whether it was paranormal or like cryptid stuff or Bigfoot stuff, some of the people would go to their spouses or their wives or something, and they would talk about it, and they wouldn't feel comfortable, or they were kind of reluctant to go talk to someone at the church, or maybe someone in law enforcement. And so they are afraid of being ridiculed. So this platform, lets them know that, hey, they're not alone. This stuff happens. And so they're able to, if their people are willing to come out and reach out to us, we love to, number one, we love to hear the story, but at the same time, and I know a lot of podcasters don't do this, and Stephen can back me on this, is that whenever we do talk to someone, we ask them, how are they doing? That's really important to us, because some podcasters will just get the story. They're excited. All right, this is a great story. And then they'll just take off. But we like to ask the question, like off air, how are you doing? Do you need to talk? And so some of the people we've actually continued to talk to, and counsel. And it's like some of the people that, one of the guys we did in, I think season 2, season 3, he was having like night terrors constantly. And to this day, I still talk to this guy, and he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to know. He doesn't want anybody to know who he is. But I still talk to him, and I counsel him, and I explain to him why he had his incident, and it made better sense to him after we've talked like 6 times, and so now he's living I think he's living a better life now since he had this incident that changed his life. So, but we do ask that question, John. We ask people if they're okay, because like a lot of times these people who have these incidents, they're not looking for it. It just happens and it changes their life, and they have nowhere else to talk to or no one else to, to grieve upon. But anyway.
Yeah. No. And that's good. And like, if I can say anything, so, I don't know, y'all are way bigger than we are, but one of the beauties of the internet, right, is our little podcast has been downloaded in 47 different countries.
Wow.
Around the world.
I don't even think we have that.
Yeah. So it's like,
I don't think so.
I mean, we've got listeners from Europe, Africa, Asia, right? Like literally everywhere. So if anybody who's listening to this, not just because there are, I guess how you saw like Bigfoot type encounters around the world, right? There's a lot of different places. In Australia, they've got a version. In Asia, they've got a version, kind of thing, right? So there's
South America,
these kind of experiences around the world.
Yep.
So even excluding Bigfoot, like there's supernatural experiences around the world. And again, you guys are a great place for people to share their stories and feel heard and all that. So, man, if anybody who's listening, you got a story, you got something, y'all's email is Bigfoot Club #1. Not typed out #1, but then the #1. So Bigfoot Club 1@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anybody, like, you got a story you want to share, and shoot these guys an email, because it's always good it's better to feel heard than to feel crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like at the same time, I've networked with a lot of people, different people in different denominations will have incidents, and that makes it even, they're reluctant to come out. But I've networked with so many people. So if I'm not able to help them, I can find someone, that's available to help them. So whether it's myself or, someone from the church or someone from their background that they're more comfortable with, we were able to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, cool. So let me set the stage here on why we've got you on our show. And I'd love to talk about Bigfoot. Maybe we will later. Maybe we'll just do another episode and just talk about stuff.
Right.
So I've known you for, what do we say, about 4 years?
4 years.
So
Yeah.
I guess a year or so after, like, time is really bad in my brain, so it's hard for me to keep track. But a year or so, maybe a year and a half or maybe 2, I don't know. After I got to know you, because we used to work together, you started having some digestive issues. And I remember you can only eat bananas and white bread or something like that.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was.
And so then.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just saying, you went to a doctor and they recommended the surgery. And this part I can't, because it all gets kind of blurry in my head.
Right.
I don't remember if there was like a concern for potential cancer, or it was for sure cancer, or I don't know, something. But what was going on? What was just that little part?
So this happened like in December of 2020, and it led over to January 2021. I was not able to hold food down, and I was losing. Yeah. I think I lost like 30 pounds in like a month and a half, right, Stephen? Like a month and a half. I wasn't, and like whatever I ate, it would not stay down. I would just lose it. And so I went to a doctor, and I went to a gastrologist, and they did an endoscope and what's it called when they colonoscopy.
Yeah, the other side. Yeah.
So I got in from both ends, and they found that I had 4 huge polyps in my lower intestine, and they were pretty big. And so they advised to have surgery to have them taken out. So this was like in, I think, April or March. I had that procedure done, and so I was going to be out for a month because they said
because I remember you took some time off from work,
right?
And that's like I remember, and I don't know how long you had been off yet, but you just hadn't come back, and so, but it was relatively soon after you had left, and so like I just remember at where we used to work. I was at the receptionist area, and there's a couple people standing around, and we all kind of worked together. So I was just like, "Hey, has anyone heard, how Robert's doing?" And like it didn't register in my brain what they said. I still, like, even now, I just can't believe what they said. They're like, Robert died, and I was like, what? Like, whoa, what? And then whoever it was, and I can't remember who it was because there's a bunch of us all standing around, but they explained you were like resuscitated, but you're in the hospital still, and it's not good. And after that, like it's just like a blur, right?
Yeah.
Some point in time, I got a chance to talk to you. I remember talking to you on the phone, and you were still relearning how to talk.
Yeah.
And like it was just wild. So okay, so take me back after, and Stephen too. Stephen's going to help fill in the blanks because Robert, you got some blanks,
right?
Right. So like you had the surgery or you're getting ready for surgery, like just start us off there and like tell your story, man.
So they removed like 6 inches of my large intestine because that's where these polyps were at. And so they had to reattach it. And so, they told me it would take a month to recover. And to be honest with you, I recovered really, really fast.
You did.
Like within 3 days, I was walking.
Oh, I think I remember that too.
Yeah, I was walking.
I think because it was interesting how quickly you recovered, but then like you disappeared again or something.
Yeah, so like I recovered really fast. So my FMLA was for a month. So I was going to write off a month, take some time off, relax, and that was the plan. So I was going to come back. I think it was I want to say it was probably like in May. I was going to come back. May.
Yeah.
Something right. Somewhere around there. So I was going to come back in May, and so no, it was the end of May, leading into the next month, and so so I was able. I was doing well, and as one morning I woke up, and I remember calling you, right, Stephen?
Yeah.
I called you, and I went to bed. This was on a Sunday night. It was Monday morning. I woke up, and I couldn't feel my hands or my feet, and I called you, and I said, I can't feel my hands or my feet. I don't know why. They're like asleep, and I can't wake them up. And what did you do you recall this conversation?
I did. I remember I was okay. Like I go, is it because remember you were going through some anxiety too.
Right.
You were going through like some extreme anxiety.
That's right.
You get anxiety, it's bad.
Yeah.
And I remember you went to your doctor and he gave you some new medication.
Some anxiety stuff.
For anxiety. And I think it was new because you said like, I don't like this other medication because something, I can't remember what was the side effect on it, but he had you try something new. And I was just like, okay, your feet, it just feels like it's constantly asleep. And you're like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like maybe it's a new medication that your doctor gave you. I'm not too sure. So you should probably call your doctor. And you were like, okay, I'll do that. And I think you did. I'm not too sure if you.
So he told me to quit taking it. So then, like within a couple of days, John, I was having a hard time walking. Like I would get up and I would go take a shower, and then I struggled to get out of the shower for some reason. Like I felt really weak, and I just couldn't stand. So I had to lean against the wall. I had to constantly lean against the wall, and I just kept falling. And I think I called my brother and I said, "Hey, there's something wrong. I need to go to the ER. I can't stand up." And he goes, okay, this was like 4 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning. And so he came and picked me up, and I was okay at this time. I was walking out. I got my stuff. I locked the door. I was walking out, and I fell down because our sidewalk was kind of uphill, and I fell down, and he was able to come out, and he goes, what's wrong with you? And I said, I don't know. And he picked me up and took me to the hospital. And at that time I got submitted to Baylor. And I try to speed this up a little bit. I got there, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. There was a neurologist there, and every day, John, I was not able to, my legs were getting weaker and weaker. And this was, I think, I got admitted by, I think it was May the 25th. And that was on a Tuesday, I think. And then by Saturday, I couldn't eat, and I couldn't taste food. And like, that day, I think I coded, I think it was at night. Was it at night, Stephen?
When you coded, it was around 5
o'clock in the afternoon.
It was around, if I remember correctly, it was probably like 4 or 5.
So I was in the hospital, John, and at this time, this numbing sensation was coming up. It was coming up my legs, and it made it to my stomach, made it to my chest. So apparently, this numbness stopped my heart. Mm-hmm. It was stopping all my muscles. I couldn't stand. I couldn't do anything. And I the last 4 hours before I coded, and luckily I was in the hospital, and I was blessed to be in the hospital when it happened. Mm-hmm. I couldn't remember anything. So I do recall whenever I did wake up, my older brother was with me, and he was showing me a video of a doctor talking to me, and I don't remember the video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I talked to you that day too. It was earlier in the day, and Steve was there, and he called me and he said, "Hey, I'm here with Robert." And I was like, "Hey, let me talk to him." And I remember you were breathing hard. I was like, "Hey, how are you feeling?" You go, I don't, like you were like struggling to, you wanted to say words, but you just couldn't. And I was like, "Are you feeling bad?" And you were like, a little, like, and I was like, I go, "Okay, so did you eat something?" No, like it was all one worded response. I go, "Okay." I was like, "All right, well," I go, "Are you too tired to talk?" You're like, "Yeah." I go, "Okay, I'll let me talk to Uncle Steve." And I was like, I go, "That's weird." He goes, "Yeah, he's when I'm trying to talk to him, he's not, it feels like he's not there."
Yeah. Cause I think at that time I told the nurse that I couldn't breathe. And so she came in and like, she gave me like major attitude, and she just put on a oxygen mask. She goes, "Breathe in," and she walked out. And I was having I was having a hard time breathing. And so I think eventually,
she's a key player though, right?
Yeah. She's a very key player in this. Yeah. So at this time, I think, it had reached my heart, and I think my Uncle Steve was with me. He left, and then Uncle Raymond came in, and then I coded. So at this time, from what I don't remember at this point what happened. So
Steve called me, and he was like, "Hey, did you get a call from Raymond?" I said, "No, why?" He goes, "He just called me right now, and I think something's wrong." At that time, I was like, "No," I didn't want to accept it. I was like, "It's probably a miscommunication." He goes, "Well, I'm turning around right now." I go, "Okay." I go, "I have Raymond's number. Let me call him." And I called Raymond, and I can hear a lot of commotion in the background. And he goes, "Hello?" I was like, "Raymond, it's Steven." He goes, "Yeah." And I was just like, what's going on? Uncle Steve said you called him and he's going back. What's going on? And he's all like, "He's gone." I was like, what do you mean he's gone? Like, what is that? I was like, I was getting like the rage and, getting all those emotions back of like, I go, "What do you mean he's gone? I just talked to him." He goes, he's gone. His heart stopped. He's not breathing. And I was like, what do they do? What's going on in the background? Like, I just didn't want to accept it. He goes, "They're working on him right now. They're trying to bring him back." And I was like, "Raymond, like, I don't understand. Like, what's," he goes, "I gotta let you go." And I was like, I was already thinking the worst. I was like, "Okay, all right." And I remember I called Blair, my wife, and I broke down. And I go, Robert's gone." And she was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, Robert's gone. Like, Raymond called me right now, and they said he flatlined. And she's like, "Okay." I was like, I don't know what to do. The boys are here. I'm watching the boys. You're at work. I don't know what to do. And that was whenever, I'll speed this up. Like, she called her dad, and whenever they were still living here, my father-in-law, and he got there in like 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes. And he was like, hey, I'm going to take you to the hospital. But during that 10 minutes while I was waiting on him, I was like, I already thought the worst. I thought I lost you already. I was like, it's been minutes. There's no way. And then I called him, and he answered real quick. He goes, he's back. And I was just like, wait, what? And I was like looking at the time. I was like, it feels like it's been like an hour, you know?
How long was it? Like, does anyone know about how long you were technically?
To me, it was like probably 10 minutes. It was probably really 10 minutes, but I was like, okay, he's back. I go, what's going on? He goes, well, his heart stopped for 7 minutes. Ugh. And I was all like, I go, okay, so what are they doing now? He goes, well, they said that it's anything past 3 minutes is like really, it's bad. It's brain damage. And I was like, okay. And he goes, they're going to test him to see if his brain is anything different or something like that. And I was like, okay. And I go, well, I'm on my way. And my father-in-law's going to drop me off. And, yeah. So my father came, and, you know, at this point, the boys saw like me and like almost in a wreck. And they kind of knew and picked up, and they were like, what's wrong with Uncle Robert? I said, he's in the hospital right now. He's sick. I didn't want to tell them. Right. But I think they knew. But I was just saying he's sick, and I'm just going to go to the hospital, and I'm going to check up on him. And you know, put on my brave face, which I shouldn't have. I should have just let them know what was going on. They were at that time, they were really smart. They still are, but,
like they stopped.
They stopped all of a sudden. Yeah. But, I went to the hospital, and when they brought you back, I don't think you were still out.
Yeah. Right? They had put a ventilator on me, and and go ahead.
So I remember getting to the hospital, and,
did you see me at all?
Yeah.
You saw me?
Yep.
I was sedated.
You were sedated. You were out, and I was there. I forgot who else was there. I think Steve. Well, Steve was already there too. Raymond. I think at the time, Grandma was on her way. I couldn't really remember, but I remember going to the hospital, and I was just like, I was looking at my phone because I kept thinking that Raymond was going to call back and say, "You're gone again." Like, I didn't know how, like, this was serious. Yeah. So, I just remember going to where Raymond was at, and Raymond gave me a hug, and he looked like he was crying, and he was just saying, he's back. He's back.
This is my older brother.
Yes. This is my other uncle.
So when you coded out, was it only one time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then I guess immediately after is like, I guess, I don't know how else to say it, recovery kind of stuff began. Right?
Yeah. My older brother told me that the same lady that gave me attitude, that the key player, he said that she came in with her Superwoman's, with her Supergirl's cape on, and she started doing CPR on me, and it was 3 ladies. Yep. And they were all taking turns until they brought me back. And so it was 3 ladies that did CPR on me for 7 minutes without stopping.
Dang.
And so I still gotta go back to the hospital and thank them. I have their names. I still gotta go find them. Mm-hmm. But that's what he told me. 'Cause like from that point on, I think that was on a Saturday night, right? That was on a Saturday night, right?
Yeah. Because Blair was working, and she didn't get off till I think 6. So this happened like around like whenever she was still at work, and I was like, I have to go. And I had this is whenever we had 2 cars. Right. So I was just thinking I'm going to take the boys, but she was scared of how tunnel vision I was, and she didn't want me driving. Right. So I think another key player there was my father-in-law. Got there in like 10 minutes and was like, I'm going to drive you. And then I'm going to take the boys. We're going to take the boys to spend the night with us. And you just need to take the time that you need. I was like, please, thank you. I didn't ask for it, but thank you. Right. But yeah, no, I was just happy to be there at the hospital. And yeah, it was just that those 2 days, I felt like, I think it was, or the next day. Yeah. 'Cause we figured it out on Sunday or Monday. can't remember. It was all, now it's all a blur.
So
yeah. So what was it technically that caused your heart to stop beating? What's the name of the thing?
Here's the thing. It's called Guillain-Barre syndrome, and it's a bacteria that gets in your system, and it turns your immune system. I mean, your immune system against your nervous system. So it thinks it's a disease, and it just attacked it. So what I was suffering from is that my immune system was attacking all my muscles, all my nerves from my muscles. And so it
always starts from the feet and it works its way up.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, that was another key thing that I'm so glad that I remembered.
Yes. And I called you and told you. So let me just retract it. Let me just go back a little bit on this, John, is that like when I was going through the colorectomy before I got sick, there was a nurse. Her name is Shay. Yes. And I became friends with her while I was going through my recovery from my colorectomy before I got sick. And so we became instant friends. We traded numbers. She was from West Dallas. I was from Oak Cliff. So we kind of clicked. And so while I was in the hospital and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And so she was discharging somebody when my two brothers and my mom were coming in, I think that weekend.
And they already met her too.
They had already met her.
Yeah.
And so they were crossing paths at the entrance, and she says, "What are y'all doing here?" And she goes, "Robert's here." And she goes, "So what for?" He goes, his body got numb and he coded, and she goes, "I'm going to discharge this guy and I'm going to go up and talk to y'all." And so she went up, and I'll let you tell the story for me because I wasn't there. So
before that happened, we were I think this was Sunday. I want to say this was Sunday or Monday the next day. Joe, your cousin Joe was there. Big Joe was there. Mary was there. Grandma. I think Christopher and Carol and Albert already left during this time.
These are my cousins.
Yes. All family members. And Raymond and Steve and Richard. And I remember when Richard got there, he was so angry. You could tell in his face how pissed off he was that the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. Cause he'd asked him once. He asked that doctor with the
Harley Davidson,
cap on his head. He goes, "What is wrong with my brother? Like, what is wrong with Robert?" And they're like, "Well, we're still trying to figure that out. There's some type of, paralysis or something that it just," he goes, and he just sat down. And he was like, I think he needed to step away because he didn't like the answer. So we were just all trying to figure out. And that's whenever, Shay came in, and she gave everybody a hug. She gave me a hug, and she goes, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm not good." I'm trying to figure out what Robert. And so she was just like getting ideas, like, "So tell me what's going on." And we were like just telling her what was going on. She goes, "Okay. So like, what was he feeling numb at?" And I go, Robert was feeling, I remember he called me and Robert said that he couldn't feel his feet. And then like, I think the next day it was his hands. She goes, "It started at his feet?" And I was like, "Yes." She goes, "It sounds like Guillain-Barre syndrome. Guillain-Barre syndrome." And I was like, "What? What is that?" And then Joe was next to me, our cousin. He was all like, "Oh yeah, the Dallas Cowboy player had
Center Fredrickson.
He
had it. He had it like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, he's like he had it, and it's like
they caught his early.
They caught his early. He didn't code or anything like that, but they were able to catch it early. She goes, "You need to tell his doctor or whoever's in charge here to test for that, because they do not test for that. You have to specifically ask for a spinal tap for them to test it." And we were like, okay, so that guy came in with the Harley Davidson cap on, and he was all like, it started with his hands and stuff. And I was like, no, it started with his feet. He goes, well, in the clipboard, whenever he came in, he said that it started with his hands. I go, that was whenever I think you were out of it. So I think the doctor was asking you, "Hey, did it start with your hands?" And you probably just said yes.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I can 100% tell you that I called him before all this went bad, that it started with his feet. He couldn't feel his feet. and then it worked its way up. And then it said it was like, I think the last time I talked to him on the phone before he came to the hospital, said that he couldn't feel his hands now. And he looked at the ground, like contemplating, like looking, he goes, I'll be right back. And then he brought in another doctor, and the doctor was all like, okay, so let me get some clarification here, because I think there's some type of misunderstanding here. Did it start with his feet or did it start with his hands? I go, it started with his feet. I go, and then before he, I guess, went to the hospital, he called me and said that he couldn't feel his hands. He goes, okay. He goes, well, we don't know. That does sound like it's a symptom from Guillain-Barre, but if you're permission, we can do a spinal tap. I go, and we're like, yes, like we want to figure out what's going on. So they did the spinal tap. And I saw that was not pleasant.
I woke up. So let me just say this, John, that this lady, Shay, she was not a nurse. Mm-hmm. She was a nurse's aide. Mm-hmm. So I was extremely blessed to meet this lady, because without her, I don't think I would be here right now without her at all. Yeah. So I think God put her in the path so I could be friends with her, so she can save me, because I told her afterwards that she saved me, but I'll just say this, that I do recall them turning me over. I woke up just for like maybe a couple minutes, and then the needle went into my back and I passed out. And
yeah, I saw that, and I was not.
So they pulled fluid from my spinal cord, mm-hmm. and they tested it, and it showed that my immune system was on full red alert, and it was like attacking. So they never said it was right. It was Guillain-Barre.
That's another thing too that pissed off Richard. He goes, is it Guillain-Barre? Yes or no? He goes, y'all have tests here to say that, right? And they're like, yeah. And he goes, well, why aren't you telling them this is Guillain-Barre? Mm-hmm. Richard was like a madman that time. I'd never seen that side of him before. Nice.
So at this point, they figured it was Guillain-Barre,
yep.
John. And so they ended up giving me this dosage. It was like 5 days worth of, it was like a IV. I forget, what was it called?
Man, I wish
Hemoglobin?
Yeah, hemoglobin, like a treatment, hemoglobin
right.
treatment.
Yeah. So they, at this time, I was not awake, right?
Okay. So you were awake. So whenever I got there, Saturday,
okay.
You woke up. I don't know if you remember that. You woke up and, that's whenever you were trying to say, hey, I'm sorry.
Right.
Because you knew how bad it was. You woke up, you saw the ventilator on you.
So I would just say this, John, is that I woke up and my hands were tied and I had a ventilator, so I couldn't talk. And so when I looked at Steve, I knew I was in a different room, and I looked at Steven, and the look of concern on his face was overwhelming. And I was trying to tell him I'm sorry for putting him through that. And he was telling me, stop trying to talk. Stop trying to talk.
Yeah.
And I was like, cause like, I think that night I had woken up, John, and in the middle of the night I woke up, and, my childhood friend Juan was there, and he hates hospitals. Mm-hmm. He was there spending the night with me. And so I woke up, and I don't think I've ever told you a story, but it was in a loop. Like I was right by the nurse's station, and I could hear what they were talking about, what they were doing for the weekend. And I would wake up and I would fall back asleep, and then I would wake up again and I would hear the same conversation. And then I had a nurse's aide come in and says, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm going to be taking care of you. I'm not good at charades. I know you got a ventilator on. And then I'd fall asleep and I'd wake up and hit the same conversation. And so I thought that was really, really weird. So, yeah. But anyway, from this point on, I was given this dosage of this hemoglobin, and it was 5 days worth. And so at the time I could barely move. And as soon as they were done with it, I was able to move my upper arms. I was able to move them.
The first day, that was whenever you were able to move your hands and move your arms. And I remember I was like, this is it. This, because that bothered me the whole night. That was the same night before. This is the little key in of what I was saying on the dreams part. That was whenever Grandpa came to my dream and said, everything's going to be all right.
Right.
So it's like he knew that we were going to figure out the next day. So,
because I don't want to dwell too much on all this stuff right now, but I would just say this, John, is that, I was able to move, and I had to go through therapy. So this happened in May the 29th, and I guess I woke up on June the 1st, and they were afraid that that I didn't have any brain function, or I wasn't thinking cognitively yet.
Yeah.
So I asked to write. I said, give me something to write. So I was writing. I said, what's today's date? And they said, it's June the 1st. I go, I got to pay rent.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And then,
you're so responsible.
And so my brother said, he goes, it's okay. We'll take care of that. We're going to take care of it. So, at this point, I think it was 8 days later, they pulled out the ventilator. I was able to talk, and I wanted like to eat so bad. And they ended up giving me I think like crackers and, I think, it was, Sierra Mist.
Sierra Mist.
Yeah. I wanted the Sierra Mist so bad. But anyway, so from May the 29th, I would say they moved me to another floor in which I started doing rehab. And I would just say this: Baylor is probably the best facility for rehab. I'll just say that they were really good to me. And so from May 29th, I think it was like from June. I was there until I think June the 15th, and I did a bunch of rehab, and so I was barely able to move, and then I think from there they moved me to another facility in Grand Prairie.
Yeah, I remember when they moved you. So I must have talked to you.
Yeah.
Sometime during that window.
So I think from that time, I had enough strength to hold my phone then.
Yeah.
Because before that, I could not hold my phone. I could not hold like a spoon or a fork. I struggled because they wanted me. They didn't want anybody to feed me. They wanted me to do it on my own. And so I struggled doing that. I struggled holding the phone. And so I think once I reached out to you, I was able to dial a number, put the phone on my stomach, and then talk to you on speaker. So,
yeah.
So, but at this time, I think, I moved to another facility in Grand Prairie, which is probably one of the worst facilities. But I think at the same time, I needed it.
The worst and the best in a way.
It was the worst and the best because I needed this. I needed this because at this time right now, John, I would say this: I was broken spiritually. I was broken mentally. I was broken physically. And I prided myself on not breaking down and crying in front of Stephen because, I raised him and, we had so many people in our life die and had to be the rock for him. And I broke down in front of him and it killed me to do that. It killed me to do that because, I've always been available for him. So I couldn't hold it. I couldn't, cause he would tell me what's wrong. And I would break down because I said, I can't do this. This is too hard. It's too hard. And he would tell me, goes, no, you can do it. You can do it. I believe in you. I believe in you. And so this place I was at, it was really bad. But at the same time, I decided, okay, I'm going to cry this out. I'm going to break down a couple of times and then I'm going to be done with it. And then I'm going to bust my butt from here on out.
Yeah.
So from there on out, I think I was there until August the 15th, I think, or something. And then I went home. I moved to my brother's house.
Yep.
And he was taking care of me. At this time, I still couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. And so my sister-in-law and my brother were great. They did great things for me. I was blessed to have them, and they motivated the crap out of me. And so,
and your love for Stephen must have motivated you too. Cause I remember talking to you one time and and it may have been a fake it till you make it kind of mentality, but you're like, no, I'm going to beat this so much faster than everyone thinks that it's possible.
And you know what? Cause I told the doctors that at Baylor, I said, what's the record for beating this? And they go, because we think 2 years. I go, I'm going to beat it. I go, I'm going to beat it. And they said, okay. I said, you're going to come back here and walk and show us? I said, absolutely. I'm going to do it. And so there were some days I was real confident. And there were some days I mentally, spiritually, John, I just broke down. Yeah. Because my mom was so angry at Baylor. She was so angry and she wanted to sue them too. She wanted to sue them too. And I told her, I told my mom, I said, Mom, I don't want to start this recovery on a negative note. I just really don't. I go, I don't care how I got it. I care where I'm going.
the outcome of it.
The outcome of it. That's what I want.
Because it was a Baylor employee that brought you back.
Right.
They could have easily just said, he's gone.
Yeah.
No. 7 minutes of doing the resuscitate. Yeah. Like,
So I, they would tell me, this physical therapy people would tell me, don't work too hard. Cause like Guillain-Barre, it takes away your strength. Like put it on your socks. That would tire me out for the whole morning. I couldn't do it. But they would tell me, because don't exercise too much. You're going to wear yourself out. And I was thinking to myself, I say, you shouldn't tell me that, because I'm going to do it more now. I'm going to do it more. And so the physical therapist and Grand Prairie would come to me and goes, hey, you ready to exercise? I go, yeah. She goes, well, get up and come over and do it. So I had to get a board and put it on the bed and put it on the wheelchair and slide myself over to it. And roll myself with even though I couldn't feel my hands, I would roll myself over there and I would do these exercises. And if she told me to do 30, I did 40. If she told me to do 50, I did 70. And she goes, you're doing it too hard. I said, and then I would go back to my room and I would exercise more. And even when I got tired, John, I would tell Stephen when he'd come see me, I'd be laying in bed. I said, move my legs.
Yep.
He'd grab my knee and grab my ankle and just like move my arms. Move my legs up and down until
I was waking up the body.
Yeah. I was just constantly doing it. And I remember at this point when I was at my brother's house, I would call you more frequently. And I'd ask you, hey, what's going on? And hey, stuff like that. And I would call Caitlin too and say, hey, what do you need? You need me? I go, do you need to talk to me about something, or you need to find something? I can help you work through it. And so she would call me every now and then and ask me about work and stuff. But anyway, I would just say this. I would not wish this upon my worst enemy, because this thing is the hardest thing. And I mean this with all my heart. This is the hardest thing I have ever done in my life, is to wake up your body, wake up your spiritual strength and your mental strength. Because to have all three of them down, that's probably the worst thing in the world. And I never thought about suicide, never thought about it, but I thought about giving up and not walking again. And after a while, I couldn't do it. I couldn't fathom that. I said, no. Because like I was saying before, and I'm sorry I'm rambling a little bit, but my mom wanted to, like I said, she wanted to sue Baylor. And I told my mom, I go, what if God did this to me to pull me off the street because I was going to be in an accident, or I was going to get robbed or shot or something? What if this is God's way of saying he's humbling me, and he's taking me off the street, and he's doing this to me so I can learn to be stronger mentally, spiritually, physically. What if that? And she looked at me and she goes, okay. She goes, I won't try to sue them. I'll let it go. Mm-hmm. So,
man, to that thought, my brother Paul, he just sent me a song this morning. And I just had to look it up in my text messages. I can't remember who it's by, it looks like maybe the singer's Jerry Raspberry, I guess. I just want to give credit, but the name of the song is God Redeems All He Allows. And that's exactly like what I'm thinking as you're saying this. Like, God, he allowed this to happen to me, and he's going to work it for his good, and for your good.
And you know what, John? I was not angry. I was not angry at God. I was not, I didn't say, hey, why have you forsaken me? I never thought that. I was just like, I was just thinking, I can't do this. This is too hard. This is too hard for me. Even for, I would like, if you're going to do this to me, great. I'm just going to accept it and go. And then I realized, I said, you know what? I could be a testament. I could be a testament for someone else.
Yeah. Well, so how long did the recovery take before you came back to work and all that stuff?
So I made it back to my brother's on August the 15th. I was walking. So this really happened on May the 25th.
Yep.
And then I was in the hospital. I made it back to my brother's in August. By September, I was on a walker.
Yep.
Yeah.
October, I was in
A cane.
Mm-hmm. And by November, I was driving.
Yep.
And so I made it back to work, I think on December 15th.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, why are you doing?
I know. I remember you showing up too. And I was like, because even then you weren't quick. You know what I mean?
No, I was not. I was shuffling.
Yep.
I was shuffling around, and like, I'll be honest with you, and I've told Stephen this. He's gotten real angry with me. When I went back to work, I couldn't feel from my knee down on both legs. On both legs, I couldn't feel it, and I couldn't tell when I was hitting the gas or hitting the brake. But
let's not do that again.
But yeah, I was determined. I was determined because like the hospital wanted me to go on disability forever.
Yeah.
And I told him, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not me. I can't do that. Sorry. That's what you want me to do. Cause they said, we don't think you should drive. We think you should get a DART pass and we can help you get, the disability.
Hell, they told you that?
Yeah.
Hell no.
I
you
said,
do not want to get on a DART. No.
I said, no, I'm good. I'm going to get past this. And I remember telling everybody, I said, I'm going to make it back. And I think some people at work didn't believe me or didn't think I was going to make it back. And, I made it back. And, I was really proud of myself. I was really proud of myself on the struggle that I went to. And you know what was really odd, John, is that, there was a lot of things in my life that I cared. I cared about comic books. I cared about football. I cared about college football. I cared about, and when I came back, I didn't care for that anymore. That didn't interest me anymore. And I quit buying comic books. I don't watch that much football. And I'd rather be alive and just experience life than think about that stuff. And I don't know. It's just, a lot of things change. I don't get angry. I don't get angry so much anymore. I don't try not to get road rage that much anymore. And I don't, like you were saying earlier, I don't take stuff personal. It's just business. It's just business. So,
I was the same way too. I was very, thankful that you were here.
Yeah.
And I used to go into the hospital or going to see you. If someone cut me off, I was like, okay. It's all good. I didn't get angry like I used to. I felt like if I did, something would backfire. I don't know. I was very, very cautious, super cautious about everything.
Yeah.
Something spilled. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have to, something's stopping me from going where I need to go or something. Yeah. It was just,
well, man, and God is so good the way he uses each of us in each other's life. There's this priest that I love, Father Mike. He said this once, and it's always stuck with me. He said, God writes straight on crooked lines. And so all the wild things that happen in our lives, all the messed up families that we have and all that kind of stuff, right? But he still works it all for good. And like, I know for like Robert, for you, like I prayed for you every single night. And as a consequence, like my prayer life improved because I was focused on prayer, right? I knew like there was literally nothing I could do, but I know God could do something with it. And so just thinking of all these different ways, I'm sure, and same thing for Stephen, I'm probably so many people, you have no idea how this experience positively affected their lives.
Oh yeah. I don't think I told you this, but I'm pretty sure the doctors, the nurses that helped you around, that they were one of them, or maybe all of them were all like, why am I doing this?
Right.
They were probably in a midlife crisis or something. And then they see you come back.
Yeah.
They see you can not only come back like to live, but they see you come back walking. That probably motivated them more. Like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. I didn't say this part, John, too. Like when I first started walking in September, I went back to the hospital on the cane, and I struggled really hard from getting from the parking lot to the building, but I made it there, and I caught the staff that first got me. I caught them in a meeting. They were in a big meeting, and I asked the front desk, I said, is the staff back there? He goes, yeah, go back there. They want to see you. Go. So I went back there, and the head doctor, the one that was so positive with me, he was talking, and the whole staff was facing him, and he saw me. He stood up, and they all stood up and turned around, and they all started crying.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and I walked up to him, and they were all hugging me, and I told them, and they were saying, he goes, you know, we don't get to see a lot of times, you know, the end product.
Yep.
She goes, thank you so much for coming back and talking, you know, and like my legs are shaking because I was so tired. And they go, do you need to sit down? I go, I've sat down long enough. I don't want to sit down anymore. So I thanked each person that put the hands on me. I thanked them. Mm-hmm. And then I went down to the ICU.
Yep.
And they were having a meeting there too. And I walked up, and the doctors there were looking at me, and they were talking, and they were like, they kind of felt like I was watching them, and the doctor stopped and looked at me. He goes, can I help you? And I turned to him, and I pointed to the room. I said, I was in this room last year. And I came back to thank everybody. And he looked at me. He goes, you're the Guillain-Barre guy, right? And I go, I am the Guillain-Barre guy. And he goes, oh my God, you're walking. And he walked up to me and he hugged me. And some of the other nurses that put their hands on me came up and hugged me and stuff. Yeah. And like the one doctor, the one that Stephen was talking about earlier, he was a nurse practitioner, and he was like doubting what was going on with me. He walked up to me. He goes, it's good to see you walking. It really is. I go, thanks to you guys. Thanks to you guys. I mean, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here, you know, if it wasn't for you guys. So I think, you know, I was blessed to have such a good group of people. And I will say this, like for people like you, John, and coworkers that reached out and try to, you know, Lisa, who tried to find out what's going on for me, and people that went to the hospital. I had friends that I hadn't talked to in years, and they showed up. And the real, not that I'm trying to be negative here, but you know, when you have something bad happen to you, you find out who really loves you.
Yeah.
And the people who don't need to be in your life work themselves out.
Yep.
And so everybody that was really negative toward me just disappeared. They just scattered. And everybody that loved me, and I'll say this, I felt loved. I felt loved when everybody was asking for me. And I know when I make it back to work, there was some people that I didn't see for years, and they just ran up to me and just hugged me.
Yeah.
And I go, what's going on? It's because I haven't seen you since you've been back.
Yeah.
I go, really? She goes, yeah. I said, I thought I saw you. It's because maybe I just saw an email. I don't know. But anyway, I know I've been rambling a little bit, John, and I'm sorry.
No, it's an amazing story. It's the kind of story that I think people need to hear, because it gives us all a moment to reflect. Isn't it amazing how short-term memory we all have?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's like these crazy things happen, and like you're saying, like, or Stephen was saying, I was really calm, or I was really patient, or whatever. And man, you'd think those lessons would last a lifetime, but I know if I'm any kind of, if similar to anyone else out there, the lesson doesn't last nearly long enough. So I think it's always good to hear stories that make you pause and think about the important things.
And I was going to ask too, I don't know if you ever talked to John about this, but do you remember whenever you broke down in front of me, one of those sentences that you were saying, like, you know, you were saying, I can't do this. I'm scared. Another thing that really impacted me is, like, I was gone for 7 minutes. I don't remember I don't remember if I was in heaven. I don't remember if I was in hell.
Oh yeah.
I had the hardest time trying to come up something positive, and the only thing I could say is, I go, you were probably in heaven, but you probably didn't see her. You probably heard my mom saying, it's not your time yet. And if you would have saw her, or you saw Grandpa, you know, Papa, Tio Victor, you know, other people that we've lost, you would have wanted to stay. And they were like, no, you can't stay. It's not your time yet. So they probably like erased your memory, or erased when you came back. That was part of the deal. Yeah. Send him back, but erase what he saw. That's the only thing I can think of. And I wanted to hear your perspective on that, John. You know, you're gone for 7 minutes. That's a long time.
Yeah.
A very long time. Some people, I've heard so many people, when they pass away, they flatline for like a couple minutes, and they remember seeing like something or something bad, something good. So, you know, I wanted to hear your perspective, you know, someone like, you know, you're religious and stuff. Have you heard something like that?
Yeah, I've heard several stories where, so I'm not super surprised that Robert can't remember anything. I've heard stories where kind of like where you're saying people are like, oh, or who is it? Your grandmother, or who was it? Who's like, it's beautiful.
Oh, my mom.
Yeah, we were just talking about. Yeah. So it's like there's times where people have these experiences where it's beautiful, it's warm, there's a light, they feel like they're around loved ones, right, welcoming them into the afterlife, things like that. Those are way more common than anything negative, which is maybe a good thing, I hope.
Yeah.
But every now and then you get people who come back and they're like, oh man, I do not like, I've got to change everything because what I saw was like every version of hell you can imagine kind of thing. But I've heard lots of stories where people go, yeah, it's like I just woke up and I don't remember my dream, you know?
Yeah. Cause like I recall waking up from coding and my
that was another thing too, is that Steve was saying, he goes, don't tell him what happened. Cause I don't think he knows. And we're like, I think you were like, luckily you were talking, but whenever you got to the writing part, I was like, I don't want to lie to him.
Yeah. Cause like once they took the ventilator off, I think, I forgot who I think it was Steve or Raymond. No, I think they asked me, hey, did you see mom? I mean, did you see dad? Did you see Sandra? And I looked at him like inquisitively, like,
yeah, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? And he says, and like my other brother was telling, I could see my other brother like, doing like his hand under his throat, like stop.
Like, don't do that. Yeah.
And so, I think Raymond came in afterwards and he says, do you remember what happened? And I go, no. I go, what happened? He goes, you died for 7 minutes and you came back. He goes, you don't remember anything? I go, no. It felt like, to me, it felt like a dream. Cause like the last 4 hours that I was alive, John, I don't remember anything.
Kind of loopy anyway.
Yeah. I was really loopy. I couldn't, like they were like I think my brother was trying to get me to eat. And it was like, it was chicken with some vegetables or something, but it tastes like sand. It was like, like I didn't have any taste buds. I didn't have any flavor, nothing. I was just like, I go, I don't want it. I can't eat. I don't want it.
Yeah.
So, but,
well, I think there's probably a very strong medical reason why you may not remember either, right?
Right.
Literally your nerves are not working. So if your brain is not working properly and your nerves are not working properly, then your mind may have had an impaired ability to retain any kind of memory,
It's a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, because when I woke up, when I took the ventilator off, like I can't remember what side of my face was drooping, right, Steven?
It was your right side.
Right side was drooping. And so I had to go through speech therapy for it.
Yep.
And like at the time I was so pissed because I was doing speech therapy. I go, I can speak. What the heck?
Yeah.
And like
you had a hard time.
Yeah, and like they were giving me puzzles and quizzes, and I had to color a bunch.
Yeah,
and like they would tell me stuff. It goes, okay, this lady goes to Chicago. She got 2 children. Then she goes to a hotel. The hotel burns down at this date. What happened? So, because who's with her? I go, the 2 children. I goes, what date did the hospital burn down? I go, on this date. Goes, why was she there? She was on vacation. so I had to answer all these questions. I go, okay, can I stop doing this now?
Yeah.
But it is just something I had to go through at the time. And, it's one of those things that, again, I mean, I'm going to always say this. I think I was just blessed. I was, handpicked.
Well, that's like, not everyone gets a second chance.
No.
Right? Even though our God is a God of second chances, not all of us, get it, or at least not in such a dramatic way.
Yeah.
And it definitely impacted your life. Do you think it's changed or developed over time? Because I do think it positively affected you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at that time, there was a lot of people that I, in previous jobs and people in my past that I did not have good relations with. Mm-hmm. And so I sought a lot of people that I left in a negative way. And I said, hey man, I'm sorry. I need to make this up to you. And there was like people who just hadn't talked to in years. Mm-hmm. And I went up to this one coworker that I used to work with, and I hated this guy. I tried to like him at first, John, and I couldn't like him. And I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I treated you bad. And I'm here to tell you that I hope you forgive me." And he hugged me. He goes, "I already forgave you." Mm-hmm. And I go, "Thank you. I thank you so much." And so I went to a lot of people. I think some of Stephen's friends I didn't have good relations with. And I reached out to them and I said, "Look, man, I was immature and I'm sorry. Please forgive me." And I think I surprised him whenever I did that. And he was just saying, he goes, "Man, okay, that's cool. I'll take your apology." And I did that with a lot of people, and I think it changed me, and I was just around just doing the right thing constantly. I go, "No, we got to do the right thing. I got to do the right thing." Yeah. That's not the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think you were imprinted somehow in this experience, even if you only in your subconscious, you can't, or because you didn't have the ability to hold on to a memory. I think there's something there because it's so, it's not easy for many people, especially men. It's not easy to say sorry.
Right.
But saying sorry is a whole lot easier than asking for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And when you have the courage to ask for forgiveness, not just apologize, but to ask that person, "Can you forgive me?" Like that, it absolutely does something to you, right? And we have confession and reconciliation, the sacrament of healing, where we go to God and we say, "This is what I did. I'm sorry. Can you forgive me?" Mm-hmm. Right? And God, of course, He says, "Yes, I forgive you. I love you. You're my most beloved son. Come on." Yeah. I think it's good.
Did you notice the change in me, or whenever I came back, or?
Yeah, I would say for sure, because you've always been a kidder, right? And I think it's easy to, especially again, us guys, right? It's easy to pick on somebody for fun, and not being malicious necessarily, but it's easy to kind of pick a little too hard or too far, Mm-hmm. And I would say that you are much gentler in that arena now. You know what I mean? You would much rather be the recipient than to give out a joke like that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things that I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm blessed to get a second chance. I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to be a better person and just do better things and try to make an impact, whether it's on my life or someone else that I'm close to. I'm just gonna try to do it the best I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is that the kind of thinking about, like, if you just grab somebody by the shoulders and shake them and tell them something? Because again, we don't always get these second chances, but it's like, if you could tell someone, do this before it's too late, what would be that thing that you'd tell them?
I would just tell them that, that stressing over a job or stressing over just minor things, there's little things that will break a person's soul or break a person's will. Take a step back, look at it, and it's not that bad. I mean, it's not. And so, like when I walked away from our job, the job I had, I walked away. It was a good paying job.
Yeah.
And I had faith that God was going to put me where I needed to be.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be a low paying job, because I took a couple of low paying jobs, but this, someone at that job was telling, because, "Man, I'm sorry you had to step down from that job to come here." I said, "Not really, because I think God put me here either to influence someone or someone to influence me."
Yeah.
So I think it's important that I made it to your life, or I made it to someone here that I work with. And now, God's put me at this really, really good job that I've got. It's more money than I've ever made.
Yeah.
And, He did it for a reason. He humbled me and put me in different spots so I could be, motivated by someone spiritually or mentally or physically. And now I'm here. So,
yeah. And is it so hard do you think, do you find it difficult to respond to people from a position of love or like patience, or is it easier now than
it's easier than ever before? Like You know, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody. I just, you know what? I don't know. I mean, I just don't have that part of me anymore. I just don't have it. And I'm pretty patient now. I'm patient with Stephen's boys. I'm patient with our neighborhood. I'm patient with, you know, other coworkers right now. I mean, you know, I really wanted to get, like, when I was going through recovery.
Yeah.
The guy that was doing the recovery, he was a great guy. And he asked me, what's your motivation? And I think at the time I was joking. And I said, I wanted to get married. And so, and he goes, okay, well, let's get started on your recovery so you can invite me to your wedding.
Let's go.
And so, and you know, I was joking about that, but you know, love is great, but it's not always for everybody.
Yeah.
I think God has put me, I say this all the time to Stephen, and I don't know if Stephen's heard this many, many times. God has put me here for something. I don't know what it is yet, but when I see it, I'm going to know. And
Amen.
so, I don't know what it is, but when I see it, I'll know. And
one thing that you had to learn too is you skipped over this. You had to learn to be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
And your body.
Yes.
And being in, cause your body is what, you know, it's a powerful thing. So to be imprisoned in your body where you can't move.
Yeah.
And you can't, like, it'll really mess with you mentally, spiritually, you know, emotionally, you know, and you will get depressed. It'll just spark that like that because you can't move. You can't do the things that you're used to doing, that you've been doing for a long time. So you had to learn to be patient with yourself, but you knew your mind was telling it goes, I'm going to, I don't know if it's going to take 2 years, but I'm for sure going to make it, you know, get there and get it done. Cause that's what you kept telling me. You go, I'm going to get it done. I don't care how long it takes, but I'm going to get it done.
Yeah. I think, I was at that time, there was a point, like I was saying before, I was a point in time that I was really hard on myself, really depressed. Mm-hmm. And there was a point in time where I was supremely confident.
Yep.
And like in September of 2021, you can remember this. I got COVID.
Yeah.
I got COVID. You got COVID too. We had COVID at the same time, right?
Yep.
And you were really worried about me that I was not going to, and I told you this. I said, dude, I go, if Guillain-Barre is not going to kill me, COVID is not going to kill me. I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
I said, God didn't put me all the way straight through this to die for COVID. I don't know what it is, but he's got a plan for me, and I gotta go figure it out. But I gotta walk first.
I had the opposite feeling. Not for you though, for me, because of, you know, I'm a bigger guy, and that time they kept saying, you know, bigger people they're gonna die. So I was like, I shaved.
Why?
I shaved because I wanted to look good in a casket.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I remember telling my therapist that, and she goes,
why?
That is so, she was like, that is so dark. Like, why did you? I go, because I had COVID, and everyone kept saying, you got COVID, you're going to die, you know? And I was just like, okay, well, I mean, watch The Office and you know, just, you know, shave. I don't know how I shaved. I was so weak. Don't know how I did it, but I was scared for you though. I was like, man, what? God, like, why did you have to get freaking COVID? Like, of all things,
you know, afterwards, I was so mad at you because you didn't tell me how severe you were. Because I was asking me, you got COVID? He goes, yeah. Because I'm good. I'm all right.
Yeah, because I think you asked me. It was like the first 4 days. Well, we called each other every day, but I think the first 4 days, I was like, I had the fever. I had a fever earlier, but I think I'm beating it. And then I came back at night. And I go, oh God, this fever keeps coming back.
Yeah, I remember I had a fever for 3 days, and I just had a big towel and I had a big bowl of water, and I just dunked it in it and just put it. I just put it over my head the whole time.
Yeah,
and like my hair was wet constantly. Yeah, my ears got water inside, but I didn't care. I was just wanted to get this fever and get it over with. But.
Yeah, and Blair got it, and then luckily the boys didn't get it. If they did, beat it.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I got over the first week, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to be good.
Man, we're really rambling. I'm sorry, John.
No, it's good. I'm so glad that you guys took time out of your busy days to chat with me. This has been really fun. And I also, because man, we have been going for a little bit. Let me.
It's been an hour and 25 minutes.
Start wrapping things up. But let me encourage everybody again to go listen to the Bigfoot Club podcast, because we just recorded an episode over there. Of course, I want everyone to go listen to it as well.
Yes.
About dreams. Very good stuff. Man, guys, this has been fun.
It has been.
Yes.
We'll have to find. We will definitely. Well, I'm gonna have to get you guys back on.
Yes,
we'll
absolutely.
do more episodes, because we didn't even get a chance to talk about Bigfoot and all that stuff.
No, I know. We were so emotional talking about stuff. So.
I know.
And I'm sorry that no one filled you in on most of the stuff. And I apologize. I'm glad you were able to fill in the blanks on some of the stuff that was going on with me.
Yeah, just a wild story. Well, guys, thank you so much. And again, everybody, go listen to Bigfoot Club podcast. And guys, thanks for joining me. And everyone, thanks for listening. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So I'll see you guys when I see you.
Okay. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.